Wife said intimacy once every fortnight, so I go home once every 2 weeks. Now she's furious. I'm sitting in a hotel room at 11:47 p.m., staring at 17 missed calls from my wife, and I can't help but laugh at the beautiful irony of it all. 3 weeks ago, she looked me dead in the eye and said, intimacy once every fortnight. Not, I need space, or we need to work on things, no. She gave me a mathematical equation for our marriage. So I did what any logical man would do. I took her at her word. If intimacy was a bi-weekly event, then clearly my presence was only required bi-weekly too. I packed a bag, kissed her forehead, and said, see you in 2 weeks, honey. The silence that followed should have been my first clue. But hey, she wanted a schedule, right? Well, congratulations, darling. You just got the most efficient husband in history. And now she's furious. Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. Here's where it gets spicy. She thought I was bluffing. Day 1, nothing. Day 3? Still no word. By day 5, she texted me a grocery list like nothing had changed. I didn't reply. I wasn't home. I wasn't scheduled to be. On day 7, she sent a photo of our cat sprawled across my side of the bed with a single caption, "She misses you." I left her on read. Day 9, I got a voice note. She sounded irritated. Not sad. Not worried. Just mildly inconvenienced. She said, if you're trying to prove a point, it's childish. I didn't mean for you to vanish. Childish? I was just following the rules. Her rules. She wanted less of me. She got it. Week 2, showtime. On the 14th day, I strolled through the front door with flowers, a bottle of red, and a smile like I just got promoted. She was in the kitchen wearing sweats and confusion. You're back, she said flatly. Yep, I said. Right on schedule. No hug. No kiss. Just that stunned fish face expression people make when a joke backfires hard. That night, we did what she asked, our fortnightly ritual. It was awkward, robotic, like we were coworkers fulfilling a shared task on a spreadsheet. But I wasn't mad. Not yet. I was curious. Round 2, reality hits. The next morning, I left for work and didn't return. No texts. No calls. I booked another hotel room, went to the gym, hung out with friends, lived my life. Meanwhile, the messages started to shift. Day 3, can you stop being weird and come home? Day 5, I didn't mean I didn't want to see you. You're my husband. Day 7, are you even sleeping alone? There it was. The jealousy, the panic. Now we're getting somewhere. But here's the thing. This wasn't about copulation. It never was. It was about how disposable I had become in her mind. How she'd reduced intimacy connection to an entry on a Google Calendar. So I matched her energy. I became the husband she thought she wanted. And now? She's spiraling. She's accusing me of abandonment, of being petty, of testing her. But the truth is, I stopped chasing crumbs the moment she offered me a ration card. I gave her exactly what she asked for, and now she's choking on it. But you want to know the real twist? Last night, I got a message that said, I think we need to talk about us. So now I'm sitting here, 11:52 p.m., staring at my phone, wondering if she wants her husband back. Or just someone to stop making her feel the consequences of her choices. The backstory, because context matters. Let me take you back to the beginning of this masterpiece of marital miscommunication. Sarah and I had been married for 4 years when the great intimacy recession of 2025 began. It started subtly, a headache here, exhaustion there, always something. Then it became weekly excuses, then monthly encounters, until finally we were down to what felt like quarterly board meetings about our relationship. I tried everything. Romance? She was too tired. Spontaneity? She needed advance notice. Planning? She felt pressured. I was walking on eggshells in my own marriage, and every attempt at connection felt like I was bothering her. The night she delivered her fortnight decree, we'd just had another one of those conversations. You know, the ones where she lists all the reasons she's not in the mood, and I'm supposed to just nod and pretend I'm not slowly dying inside. Look, she said, setting down her wine glass with the finality of a judge's gavel, I know you have needs. So let's be realistic about this. Intimacy once every fortnight. That's reasonable, right? Reasonable. Like we were negotiating a gym membership. I just need you to understand that I'm not going to be available on demand anymore, she continued. So I am available once every fortnight. That's it. Available. Not interested. Not excited. Not looking forward to connecting with her husband. Available. That's when something inside me snapped. Not in an angry way, in a crystalline, clear way. She'd just told me exactly what I was worth to her. So I decided to give her exactly what she was asking for. The great experiment begins. The next morning, I started packing. Not dramatically, just methodically. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, a few books. Sarah watched me from the bedroom doorway, probably thinking I was having some kind of breakdown. What are you doing? She asked. Well, I said, folding my favorite sweater. You said intimacy once every fortnight. So I figured, why waste both our time? I'll just come home every 2 weeks for our appointment. The look on her face was priceless. Part confusion, part disbelief, part something else I couldn't quite identify. You're being ridiculous, she said. I didn't mean you should leave. But you did, I replied calmly. You said you're available once every fortnight. Why would I hang around bothering you for the other 13 days? I kissed her forehead, the same way you'd kiss a distant relative at a funeral, and walked out. The first week, radio silence. I checked into a decent hotel downtown. Not luxury, but clean and comfortable. For the first time in months, I felt light. No walking on eggshells. No analyzing every word for hidden meanings. No wondering if tonight would be the night she'd actually want me. I went to work, hit the gym, called some friends I hadn't talked to in ages. I read books. I watched movies she hated. I ate at restaurants she'd never try. I remembered what it felt like to exist without constantly monitoring someone else's mood. Meanwhile, my phone stayed suspiciously quiet. Day 3, I got the grocery list text. Not, how are you, or I miss you. Just, can you pick up milk, bread, and those crackers I like? I stared at that message for a full minute. Even in my absence, she still saw me as someone whose job was to run her errands. I didn't respond. Day 5, another text. The trash pickup is tomorrow. Can you take the bins out? Again, no response from me. I was starting to understand something profound about our marriage. I wasn't a husband to her. I was a service provider who occasionally got lucky. The cat photo incident. Day 7 brought the cat photo. Our tabby, Whiskers, sprawled across my side of the bed with that smug look cats get when they've claimed territory. The caption read, "She misses you." The cat. Not Sarah. The cat missed me. I almost laughed out loud. Here she was, trying to make me feel guilty using our pet as emotional ammunition, while still not acknowledging that she might actually miss me herself. I left her on read. Because honestly, what was I supposed to say? Tell Whiskers I miss her too, but I'm not scheduled to be home for another week? The voice note that changed everything. Day 9. I was having dinner at this little Italian place we'd never been to together. She doesn't like pasta. Too many carbs, when my phone buzzed with a voice note. I almost didn't listen to it. But curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was different. Sharper. irritated in a way that told me she was finally starting to realize this wasn't a tantrum I was throwing. Okay, if you're trying to prove a point, it's childish. I didn't mean for you to vanish completely. I just. I needed some space to breathe. I didn't mean I didn't want to see you at all. There it was. The first crack in her armor. But notice what she didn't say? She didn't say she missed me. She didn't say she was wrong. She just said she didn't want me to vanish. Like I was a piece of furniture she'd grown accustomed to having around. Still, I didn't respond. I had 6 more days to go, and I was genuinely curious to see how this would play out. The 14th day, return of the husband. I showed up at exactly 6 p.m. on day 14. I'd bought flowers, not her favorites, just some generic roses from the grocery store. I'd picked up a bottle of red wine, the kind she'd drink but wouldn't rave about. I was operating on the same energy she'd given me, adequate but uninspired. She was in the kitchen when I walked in, wearing those gray sweatpants and an old college t-shirt. Her hair was in a messy bun, and she looked like she hadn't slept well. "You're back," she said, and I could hear the complex mix of emotions in those 2 words. Relief, anger, confusion, something else. "Yep," I said, setting the flowers on the counter. "Right on schedule." We stared at each other for a moment. I could see her trying to figure out what game I was playing, whether this was still some kind of elaborate joke. "So," she said finally, "what happens now?" "Well," I said, pouring 2 glasses of wine, "we have dinner, we talk about our respective fortnights, and then we fulfill our scheduled obligation. Just like you wanted." The word obligation hit her like a slap. I could see it in her eyes. I didn't use that word," she said quietly. "No, you didn't," I agreed. "But that's what you meant, isn't it? Once every fortnight. Like a recurring appointment." The most awkward evening of our marriage. Dinner was surreal. We talked about work, the weather, the news. Anything but what was actually happening. It was like we were strangers on a first date, except we'd been married for 4 years and knew each other's every habit. I told her about my hotel, the gym I'd been using, the restaurants I'd tried. She told me about her week, the projects she'd been working on, the show she'd been binge-watching. All very civilized, very polite, very empty. After dinner, we went through the motions of our fortnightly ritual. It was mechanical, perfunctory, like we were checking items off a to-do list. She participated, but it felt like she was somewhere else entirely. Afterward, we lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and I realized something devastating. This is what she'd reduced our marriage to. This hollow, scheduled, emotionless exchange. "So," I said into the darkness, "same time in 2 weeks?" She turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in months. Fear. "Are you serious?" she whispered. "As serious as you were when you scheduled our intimacy," I replied. The second fortnight, the panic sets in. The next morning, I left for work and didn't come home. I'd already extended my hotel reservation, already gotten into my new routine. But this time, the messages started almost immediately. Day 1, "Are you really doing this again?" Day 2, "This is ridiculous. You're my husband. You should be here." Day 3, "Can you stop being weird and come home?" The word weird made me laugh. I wasn't being weird. I was being exactly what she'd asked for, a husband who only showed up when she was available. Day 4, "I made your favorite dinner. It's in the fridge." My favorite dinner. The first time she'd mentioned doing something specifically for me in months. Day 5, "I didn't mean I didn't want to see you. You're my husband." There it was again. "You're my husband." Not, "I miss you" or "I want you here." But, "You're my husband," like it was a job description I was failing to fulfill. Day 6, "Are you punishing me?" Punishing? I was just following the rules she'd established. But I could hear the shift in her voice, the growing panic. Day 7, "Are you even sleeping alone?" And there it was. The jealousy. The fear that maybe, just maybe, I was finding elsewhere what she'd rationed at home. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to reassure her that I wasn't cheating, that I was just trying to understand what our marriage had become. But another part of me thought, why should I? She'd been treating me like I was disposable for months. Let her sit with that fear for a while. The breaking point. Day 10. I saw your credit card statement. You're spending a lot on hotels and dinners. We need to talk about the budget. The budget. Even in her panic, she was trying to control me through finances. Day 11. My mom asked where you were. What am I supposed to tell her? Day 12. This is affecting my work. I can't concentrate. Day 13. I think we need to talk about us. That last message arrived at 11:47 p.m. I was lying in my hotel bed, reading a book I'd been meaning to get to for months, when my phone lit up with those words. I think we need to talk about us. Not, I miss you. Not, I was wrong. Not, I love you and I want you to come home. But we need to talk about us. Like we were business partners discussing a merger. The revelation. But here's what I'd figured out during those 2 weeks of hotel living. This wasn't about intimacy. It never was. It was about how she'd stopped seeing me as a person with needs, feelings, and desires. I'd become a convenience in her life, something she could turn on and off at will. The intimacy once every fortnight declaration wasn't about her libido or stress levels. It was about control. It was about reducing me to a role I could only play when she decided to let me. And when I'd taken that logic to its natural conclusion, showing up only when scheduled, she'd realized what she'd actually been asking for. A part-time husband. A man who existed only when convenient. The phone call. At 12:23 a.m., she called. I let it ring 5 times before answering. Hello, I said, like I was answering a customer service line. Can you please just talk to me? Her voice was different now. Smaller. Scared. I'm listening, I said. This isn't what I meant, she said, and I could hear her crying. When I said that thing about the fortnight, I didn't mean for you to disappear. But that's exactly what you meant, I said quietly. You told me you were available once every 2 weeks. So I'm respecting your availability. Stop saying that word, she snapped. I'm not some service you book. Aren't you? I asked. Because that's exactly how you presented it. I am available once every fortnight. Your words, not mine. The silence stretched between us. I was just trying to. She started, then stopped. I felt pressured. Like you always wanted something from me. I wanted connection with my wife, I said. I wanted to feel like you actually wanted me, not like I was bothering you every time I tried to touch you. I do want you, she whispered. No, I said. You want me to want you. There's a difference. The truth comes out. What followed was the most honest conversation we'd had in months. She told me about feeling overwhelmed, about work stress, about how she'd felt like intimacy had become this expectation she couldn't meet. I told her about feeling rejected, unwanted, like I was constantly walking on eggshells. But instead of talking to me about it, I said, you decided to ration intimacy like we were in a drought. You turned our connection into a scheduled maintenance appointment. I know, she said. I know, and I'm sorry. But this disappearing act isn't solving anything. Isn't it? I asked. For the first time in months, you're actually talking to me about how you feel instead of just managing me. She was quiet for a long moment. I miss you, she said finally. The words I'd been waiting to hear. I miss you too, I said. But I miss the version of you that actually wanted me around. The negotiation. We talked until 3 a.m. Not about schedules or obligations, but about what had gone wrong. How we'd stopped communicating. How she'd felt overwhelmed and I'd felt rejected. How we'd both retreated into our corners instead of facing the problem together. So what happens now? She asked. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm not coming home to the same marriage I left. I'm not going back to begging for scraps of affection from my own wife. And I'm not going back to feeling like I'm failing you every day, she said. Then we figure out something different, I said. Together. Not with schedules or rations or ultimatums. Like partners. The return. I came home the next day. Not because my 2 weeks were up, but because we'd agreed to try something different. To actually work on our marriage instead of just enduring it. She was waiting for me in the kitchen, wearing a dress I'd always liked. Not because she was available, but because she wanted to look nice for me. "Hi," she said when I walked in. "Hi," I said back. We hugged, really hugged, for the first time in months. Not the perfunctory pecks and side hugs we'd been exchanging, but the kind of embrace that says, "I missed you and I'm sorry, and let's try again." The aftermath. That was 3 months ago. We started marriage counseling the following week. It wasn't easy. We had to unlearn a lot of bad habits and patterns. But for the first time in our marriage, we were actually talking about what we both needed instead of just managing each other's expectations. The intimacy schedule? Gone. Replaced with actual communication about desire, energy levels, and connection. Sometimes that means spontaneous moments. Sometimes it means planned romantic evenings. Sometimes it means just cuddling on the couch while watching a movie. But it's never about obligation or availability. It's about wanting to connect with each other. The lessons. Looking back, I realize my hotel experiment taught us both something crucial. You can't schedule love. You can't ration connection. You can't turn marriage into a business transaction and expect it to survive. When Sarah said intimacy once every fortnight, she thought she was setting boundaries. But what she was really doing was reducing our entire relationship to a recurring calendar appointment. And when I took her at her word, she realized how devastating that felt. Marriage isn't about being available. It's about being present. It's about choosing each other every day, not just when it's convenient or scheduled. The real victory. The real victory wasn't proving a point or winning some kind of marital chess game. It was finally having the conversation we should have had months earlier. It was realizing that we'd both been protecting ourselves instead of protecting our marriage. Sarah learned that trying to control intimacy through scheduling was just another form of rejection. I learned that disappearing wasn't the answer, communication was. Now, when one of us is feeling overwhelmed or disconnected, we talk about it. We don't retreat into our corners or create artificial boundaries. We face the problem together. The irony. The beautiful irony is that now, 3 months later, our intimacy is better than it's been in years. Not because we scheduled it, but because we stopped making it a source of stress and pressure. When you remove the obligation and return to genuine desire, everything changes. Sarah tells me she wants me. I tell her I want her. Sometimes we act on it, sometimes we don't. But it's always a choice, never a scheduled appointment. The final twist. Last week, Sarah brought up the whole Fortnight incident while we were having dinner. "You know," she said, "I still can't believe you actually moved into a hotel." "I still can't believe you tried to schedule our marriage," I replied. We both laughed. It's become one of those stories we can laugh about now, the time we almost destroyed our marriage by trying to turn it into a business meeting. "Would you do it again?" she asked. "If I tried to pull something like that?" I thought about it for a moment. "I hope we're better communicators now," I said. "But if you ever try to ration love again, I'll show you exactly what ration love looks like." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Deal," she said. "But next time, maybe we just talk about it first?" "Deal," I agreed. And that's how a marriage gets saved, not by following the rules, but by showing each other what those rules actually mean.